Good afternoon, Floss Tube. This is Julie with Reflections Framing and Stitching. Today is Wednesday. It is the 8th of July, and this is Chart of the Day video number 58. How are you? Good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm doing pretty good myself. Didn't want to come back from vacation. Gonna be quite honest about that. It was hard. We had a good time. I hope you all had a safe and good 4th of July. Yeah, I for one was thrilled to be out of the city and all of the firecrackers. Apparently the air quality the next day in Omaha was poor because of all the smoke from the firecrackers in my county. 2 people lost hands, 1 person lost a foot, and there were 4 house fires. It's out of control. So I was glad to be up where there wasn't anyone else. There were no fireworks except for the ones that we lit off ourselves, and it was awesome. Absolutely awesome. So, but I'm back. We came back reluctantly. And here I am today. So, question of the day from a week ago, because it has been a full week since I did a video, was, let me think for a minute, I had it. Oh, I know you're yelling at me right now. What was it? I had it on the tip of my tongue. Traveling. What kind of traveler are you, and would I kill you? And I think most of you would not travel well with me. Yeah. I think most of you like to stop and at least go to the bathroom. And I'm like, if you can't hold your pee for 4 hours, we can't travel together. So, we had a good trip up. Except for Remy. The nausea medicine did not work, so she did end up vomiting. She was just a miserable little puppy for the 4-hour trip. But otherwise, our trip up was fine. Traffic was fairly light. We didn't run into any construction, so that was all good. We got there in very good time. Traveling home was not quite as quick. We got behind, the big old windmills with the 3. They're the wind turbine things. We got behind one of those. And it took a while to get out from behind that. So it slowed us down. We got behind some farmers. We got behind some blue hairs, which I suppose technically I could be considered a blue hair, but I will never have blue hair. So, but we did get behind a couple of mom and pops that were driving 20 miles below the speed limit. And it's just 2-lane highway, so it's really hard to get around them. So it slowed us down coming home. So it took us maybe 3.5 hours to get up there. It took us close to 5 to get home. Remy was doing better on the trip home because I called Nicole Buckeye Stitcher and said, what do I do? And she gave me some suggestions, and so it was much better coming home than going up. There was no vomit. She was still nauseated, but there was no vomit. So that's a good thing. Chart of the day for today comes to us from Hands On Design. It is called Let's Talk Autumn. From what I understand, this will be a series. So there is the first in the series. Make it straight for you, or somewhat straight. I think it's really cute. You actually get 3 different designs in there. Look at this one down here. Let me see if I can get not a glare there. That one's really cute. And the little pillow is cute too. So you get 3 designs. The chart sells for $12. So not bad for 3 designs. She calls for all DMC. You do need 3 skeins of the winter white, the 3865, in order to do all 3 designs. Otherwise it's just 1 skein of all the other colors. I am out of 3865, so I'm just subbing in regular old white. And what else can I tell you? The cover models were stitched on 32 count slate by Fabrics by Stephanie. Let's see. And I did a quick conversion to overdyes, just for some people prefer to stitch that. And you would see, I mean, I wouldn't for the white, but maybe in the pumpkins and the leaves you would see a little bit of the variegation. So I did do a quick conversion. These are the DMC colors. These are the overdye colors. So pretty close. Pretty close. And this is slate from Stephanie, 32 count. That looks like that. I know some people don't really like to stitch on the darker fabric, so I do have some options for you. But I'll show the options for the darker fabric first, because as we know, sometimes it's difficult to get Stephanie's. So Zweigart has a fabric that's called charcoal. It's not quite as dark. There's no modeling to it, but it does look really nice with the colors. So that would work fine. And it's a little lighter. Picture This Plus has a color called Shadow that, you know, looks fine too. Someone is talking to me. That would be the ding you keep hearing in the background. So that would be the overdyes. I also thought if you wanted to do something a little lighter, say you don't want to stitch on dark, Stardust from Stephanie. I think it would be pretty on there. Or Lucky Penny would work also. Picture This Plus has one called Tidal, Tidal, and I think that would be fine too. Let me just show that again, a little bit bigger piece. You can see some of the colors down there in the bottom. That would be very pretty. Or also, this is Cyprium, 16 count? 16 count Cyprium, which is very fall looking. And I think these would be pretty on there too. So there you have it, today's chart of the day. Today's question of the day, I just had someone else cancel for fall retreat, which we're not 100% sure will happen. I'm hoping it will happen, but not 100% sure it will happen. But I did have another person cancel for retreat not due to COVID, but due to other health issues. So it got me thinking. I just wondered how many of you have actually attended a retreat. And if so, if you've attended one, what was your favorite part? And then for those of you who haven't attended a retreat, if you don't mind my asking, what is stopping you from going? Is it you prefer to stitch alone? There's not one close to you. Money is an issue. You don't have to tell me if money is an issue. It's not really my business. I was just curious if there was a general reason why you wouldn't attend a retreat that I'm not aware of. I love going to retreat. I am not really an extrovert. I am an introvert, but I do love going and talking to other stitchers. I think you can always find something, glean some information from every person you talk to. So you can learn all kinds of things at a retreat. I don't necessarily like to go to a retreat where there's classes. To me, that's not a retreat. That's learning something, and we all know how I felt about school. So I don't necessarily need a class to go to retreat. I know some of you do like having classes. I enjoy meeting the designers. But mostly I just enjoy sitting with my friends and stitching and talking and staying up till the wee hours of the morning, seeing what everyone else is working on. Yeah. So, yes, you've been to a retreat. No, you haven't been to a retreat. Favorite part, why you don't go to a retreat, etc., etc., etc. All right, so that concludes the chart of the day. I was just going to talk a little bit more about vacation. We had a very good time. The lodge we stayed at. So you can tune out if you don't want to hear this. Bye. If you do, great. The lodge we stayed at was approximately 4,000 square feet. That on 2 different levels. The main level was a very large living space, kitchen area, and then there was 1 bedroom, a bathroom. There's a bedroom in the 1 bedroom, and then there was a separate toilet area, and then there was a loft up above, which is where we originally thought the kids would stay, was in the loft, because to get to the loft you have to climb up the ladder and go through the floor. And most of the adults were like, no, not going to do that. But the kids thought it would be awesome. However, what we didn't know was there's only a single window air conditioner for the full 2,000 square feet on the main floor. None in the basement. And it was a little hot up there in the attic, or the loft space. The rest of the lodge on the main floor stayed fairly cool between all the fans we set up and the 1 air conditioner. So it was pretty comfortable on the main space, but the bedrooms in the basement were kind of hot and damp. So we did have 2 fans in our bedroom to keep it fairly comfortable. But it really wasn't that bad, considering it was 90, 92, 93 degrees out. But there was very little humidity, so it felt much better than it does here in Omaha. The place was not necessarily the cleanest I've ever seen. And they need to do some maintenance on it, but I don't think they're interested in doing maintenance on it. So it was a little more rustic than we were expecting, is what I'm trying to say. But despite that, we still want to book it again for next year, because we did have a really great time. Dan pretty much fished the entire time. He got no stitching done. My biggest beef was the lack of lighting. In that 2,000 square feet, there was a 3 light bulb light hanging over the sofa, a 3 light bulb light hanging over the 1 kitchen table, and I think there was another 3 light bulb light maybe over in the other corner where the game table was, but it was, and I think maybe they were 40-watt bulbs. It was dark in there, and even though I took my little clip-on light, it was so dark around you, it just wasn't good for stitching. So I did not get much stitching done at all. I think I maybe put in 20 stitches the entire time I was there, which makes me a little sad because I was looking forward to sitting there. But I'll know better for next year. Next year I will make sure there is room in the car for a light. There was not room this year. We were packed to the gills. I said Dan fished most of the time, and he was kind of like the Pied Piper. So wherever Dan went, he was followed by Emma and Addie, and then and Kate, and they just followed him wherever he went, along with Remy, who followed him wherever he went. So he pretty much, his time was spent with the kids. Melanie and I spent a lot of time driving back and forth to visit my aunt and uncle and our cousins that had come for the 4th of July, which we were supposed to spend the day on the 4th with them, but circumstances being what they were, we had two kids vomiting. That morning we decided that wasn't a good idea. So Melanie and I went and sat for a couple hours and visited on the 4th, but we didn't spend the whole day there playing dominoes and sequence and games like we normally do. And I know they were very disappointed. We were disappointed too, but it just wasn't safe. We didn't go in their house at all, which also upset them. We just didn't think it was safe. So the 4th of July wasn't exactly what we were hoping it would be. And then while we were there, they actually sold their house. They're getting up there in years, and they have a really large house and a large lot, and the upkeep is just getting too much for them. So they did sell their house to a couple from Maryland who's going to retire there. So it's kind of wasn't a shitty end of an era, to be quite honest with you. It would have been nice to have had a normal 4th of July for our last one, but we didn't. And in spite of that, we still had fun. So we did play dominoes at the lodge a couple of nights, and Marcia got to go out and float on the lake and suntan, which is what she wanted to do. And yeah, we had a good time. A very good time. There was a coyote or a wolf hanging around one night. Dan could see the glow of the eyes, and I said, "Are you sure it wasn't a deer?" And he said it was too low to the ground to be a deer. So he's thinking coyote or wolf. Melanie ran into a rattlesnake, which disproves the theory that my mom and my Uncle Jack have always said, which was that there are no rattlers south of the Niobrara River. We were most definitely south of the Niobrara River, and she ran into one, and then they heard another one on another day. So that was fun. Not. And let's see, we almost lost Rags a couple of different times because she does not like to be separated from me. And I went into town with Melanie. That was Friday. I went into town with Melanie, and we had to go to the grocery store and pick up a few things. We wore our masks. We were the only one wearing a mask. But apparently Rags had watched me drive away, and somehow she got out the door when someone went out, and she took off for following me. Luckily, Remy was with her, and Dan called Remy, and Remy came back, and Rags followed Remy. So, because Dan said he would never have caught her, which doesn't surprise me because Dan has 3 speeds: slow, slower, and slowest. In fact, watching Dan run is kind of like pouring molasses out of a bottle. He's almost standing still. So he would not have been able to catch her had she not turned around. The second time we almost lost her, technically we didn't lose her. We could have had it been deeper, but she somehow ended up in the lake. We're not sure whether she just couldn't tell the difference between the ground and the because the edges of the lake were kind of mossy, and she just thought that was more grass. But somehow she ended up in the lake, and when Adam went to tug her back out, now this part of the lake was maybe, I don't know, 18 inches deep, so it wasn't like she was drowning by any means, but when he went to pull her back in with the leash, her collar slipped over her head. So then she was just free, and she ended up moving kind of underneath the dock, so he had to lay down on the dock and pull her up. So, and then he had to hose her off because she was just covered with that green, mossy, slimy stuff. So they referred to her the rest of the weekend as Swamp Dog. So those were the real big highlights. Rattlesnake, almost losing Rags, wolf or coyote. But it was wonderful to be out there and away from everything. We had no internet. It was peaceful. My soul needed that. Melanie's soul needed that. And we want to go again next year. But I want to go stay longer because it wasn't long enough. So we'll see. They haven't responded to my request. So I don't know if they will or not let us come again. But I hope so. So I hope you had a wonderful weekend. A good 4th of July. I hope you're all safe. Numbers are going up. So again, wear your masks. And hopefully I will see you tomorrow. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. So you take care until next time, and get some stitching done. Bye.